Greetings, my glorious Adeptus Custodes. Today I will tell you the truth. And it is, alas, not the truth that is known in every corner of the Imperium, for our dark past is full of bitterness and suffering. Well, today I will tell you of them, the Grand Primarchs. They are my sons, and in them will live the hopes of a united humanity. Their strength will prevail, not only when victory seems easy, but also when it seems out of reach. In times of darkness, my noble sons will shine brightest. A long time ago I met a woman named Erda. She met me back on ancient Terra. Back then my name was Neot, and I was the warlord king from the time of the first cities. Even then my goal was the evolution of humanity that would lead to the creation of the Imperium. Erda was one of the Eternals. Eternals are literally immortals who can regenerate after any trauma, even the most serious, such as burning or dismemberment. Ever since the dawn of humanity, Eternals have been kings and warlords, and all have been quite powerful. Although I am an Eternal myself, few of them could stand up to me. I've always been able to make a very pleasant impression on both humans and Eternals. Perhaps that's why Erda took a liking to me so quickly. Maybe she even loved me. Inspired by the stories of humanity's greatness, together with the other Eternals, she began to help me on my way to my goals. The time of the unification wars of Terra was harsh enough to change both people and their principles. I had to make a lot of hard decisions, and every day I became tougher and tougher. I was willing to do anything for my dream of humanity's greatness. The Eternals who were by my side began to question my decisions more and more. In time, they began to leave me. Only two of them, Erda and Malcador Sigillith, remained with me. Erda herself would later say that some of the major conflicts in history were caused by the Eternals who went against me, against my plans. Of course, it didn't work out for them. It was then that I decided to create my own Eternals. This is how Project Primarch was founded, the essence of which was to create demigod generals of armies, derived from my DNA. A total of 20 babies were created. They were kept in special capsules deep in dungeons under the Himalayas. Due to the sorcerous nature of these children, they could be subjected to the strong influence of the warp. And so super strong magical seals were placed on their capsules to keep the little Primarchs from being influenced by the Immaterium. The project was run by a Terran scientist named Amara Astarte. Adeptus Astartes was named after her. Erda was also a smart woman, and her geneticist skills were very useful to the project, because when you live for thousands of years and know a lot of different sciences, it can be very useful. Plus, Erda was in the dark age of technology. Her faith and affection for me was so strong that when I made the decision to cross our genocodes to create, in fact, 20 children, she agreed without a second thought. What woman doesn't want children, especially if they're children from the Emperor of Mankind? Together with her, we made 20 completely different Primarchs, which came about through genetic miracles, as well as the knowledge of warp-related knowledge I had gained on Molech from the Chaos Gods. This means that the Primarchs were designed not only physically, but spiritually as well, which explains why the Primarchs had far stronger personal magnetism and charisma than their enhanced genetics would have given them. But the use of sorcerous methods also meant that the Primarchs were unusually vulnerable to the influence of chaos, because their souls shone so brightly in the Immaterium that they could not help but attract the attention of demonic entities, as moths are attracted to candle flames. It seemed to me that Erda was happy with everything. She had children without having to give birth to them. They were all in special containers where they grew up quite quickly. The only thing we didn't agree on with Erda was the future of these children. I was raising them for the wars as my own tools, and I had my own plans for each of them. Magnus the Red, for example, must take his place on the Golden Throne to ensure humanity's safe journey through the web. You can read more about the Golden Throne in one of my diary chapters. I don't know what Erda's plans were for these children, but I know for certain that the fate I had in store for them was not to her liking. Erda had her own specific arguments about Project Primarch. She considered her fundamental objection to the fact that the work was too urgent. She said I was trying to supplant the natural course of life with artificial versions that flouted ethics, morality, and wise prudence. She claimed that the Eternals arose naturally, that it was a new step in human evolution. She called the Eternals Homo Superior, or perfect men. And if humanity was destined to evolve into the Eternals, then everything must happen by itself. Which is why she took a desperate step. She broke through the psychic defenses and created a warp vortex in the lab with the Primarch, which scattered the capsules of future Primarchs across the galaxy and sent the immaterium energy through each child, thus hiding them from me for years to come. Because of the influence of the warp energy, many of the Primarchs changed, such as Sanguinius getting his beautiful wings, and some of the children became more amenable to the influence of the Chaos Gods. Later, I learned that Erda was secretly manipulated by the Chaos Gods to help her and essentially themselves. They feared me and knew they could not destroy me on their own. And the creation of the Primarchs could tip the scales in favor of the forces of order. Erda's behavior has made me furious. The one I trusted most betrayed me. She was guided by her feelings and thus destroyed my great project. But I didn't kill her. Deep down, I felt something strange for her. Something unknown. I banished her. I watched her, but I never interfered with her fate. The babies in the capsules were lucky, because each of them had fallen on a habitable world, so they could be found and raised by someone. I felt that my children were still alive, but I couldn't say for sure where they were. And then the priority goal of the future crusade was to search for the Primarchs in the darkness of space. In the meantime, the Primarchs, being genetically perfect, possessing mental and physical abilities that an ordinary person can only dream of, being practically gods, were nevertheless like ordinary children who were just about to learn the world around them. Therefore, the worlds that had become native to the Primarchs left their own imprint on each of them, making them unique. Thanks to their genetics, the Primarchs developed faster than normal children, and by adolescence they were unrivaled among adults in strength and wisdom. Not surprisingly, most of them became messiahs and liberators for their new havens, and almost all of them took high positions in their new worlds, becoming wise and far-sighted rulers. All Primarchs were originally created not only as ideal warriors, but also as peerless leaders, capable of leading their people, inspiring hope and great accomplishments. To fulfill such an ambitious plan to find my children, I needed a powerful army. The Imperium, of course, already had a regular army of ordinary soldiers, but it was not enough. By this time, my Legio Custodes had wiped out virtually all the Thunder Warriors. There weren't many custodians. Some of them had never left the palace. So once again, I needed a vanguard for my army, a powerful force that would violently and quickly rush into battle and forge victory. It had to be a large, mass-produced army. So here I combined the fast pace and simplicity of creating Thunder Warriors with the incredibly complex, nearly perfect DNA of my sons, which is how the Space Troopers were created. From the genetic material of each of the Primarchs, one legion of Space Troopers was created, which at that time had not yet received their famous names, but already reflected some of the appearance and character traits of their Primarchs. And so, the Imperium's strike force was ready. The first planet I set my eyes on was the Moon. I gave my army a chance to show what they could do. On the Moon were gen-occult scientists who were ahead of the curve in gene research and control technology. This knowledge was needed because it would make the production of Space Troopers faster, easier, and more reliable. The operation was a success. The Space Troopers proved their suitability for conquering the galaxy, and I, having gained knowledge and technology, continued to expand my army. When the army was finally ready, equipment, gear, and armaments were provided by Adeptus Mechanicus from the Moon. The order was given to begin active operations of the Great Crusade, and I personally led my mighty army to the edge of the solar system and beyond. It was from this moment that a series of important events began to unfold, both for humanity and for the galaxy as a whole. Over the course of the Great Crusade, I gradually found all but 2 of the Primarchs, whose secrets lie far beyond these records. Each Primarch was sooner or later given command of one of the legions of Space Marines, and each of them took his place at my side, thereby beginning to fulfill his own destiny.